Forster. We're going to be going over the agenda for tomorrow's Board of Supervisors meeting. How you doing, Richard?
Hi, Tom. How
Good
are
to
you
see
today?
you. Great. Had a good weekend.
Yeah.
You at the Italian picnic, and I saw you down there at the in the parade a couple times.
Yeah, it was a busy weekend. Had graduations for 3 kids, and I don't call them kids anymore, young adults.
Yeah.
And then I got my granddaughter's first birthday party, so lots of stuff.
We have a fly in here that says, I don't think we can pretend he's not in here. Okay, go ahead.
That fly should be on the wall. Okay. First up on the agenda on Tuesday of this week is the petition certification for the petition filed by the group opposing the Newman Ridge Quarry. The question for the board is they had the appropriate number of signatures certified by the Recorder Registrar of Voters, Kim Grady. So that's her job, to count the votes, count the petition signatures, make sure they're valid. There were 315 plus 8 duplicates that were found not to be valid, but they had plenty of signatures. The question comes for the Board of Supervisors to certify this and put it on an election, to decide which election to put it on. Do we call a special election that's going to cost $100,000? That's a decision. The other decision is to look at the language of the referendum, and the language says referendum against a resolution, ordinance, and reclamation plan passed by the Board of Supervisors. So that's the decision. The big question comes down to on this, what is subject to a referendum? All of the legal opinions we've received so far says that the Newman Ridge Quarry and their reclamation plan are not subject to referendum. That is a ministerial act by the Board of Supervisors. The Edwin Center North project, because of zone changes and general plan amendments, is a legislative act, and that is subject to referendum. The question is the language that they put on the petition correct, and was it correct to the voters, or was it deceptive to the voters? So that's the question that the board will take up on Tuesday of this week.
Okay, that's an important question, I guess, to be answered, to see how that moves forward, or how that plays out.
That's right.
All right.
Next up, we'll have the grand jury is requesting an additional $6,000 to complete their term, and as Judge Hermanson put it, the additional request included is for jury and witness allocation as well as communications. This has been a very active grand jury. We'll see if everything they do is correct.
Is that for stipends and things like that, the monies?
You know, that's all I have to go by. Is what they put down. Really, it's up to the Superior Court judge to review their request to see if it's correct, and then to submit it to the Board of Supervisors. By the codes that we go under, as long as the judge certifies their request and asks for the money, we're required to give them the money. So we really don't have a lot of play on this one. I wish we did, because it gets very expensive sometimes. But it looks like we don't have a lot of discretion on this one.
Okay.
Next up, we have the Amador Economic Development Partnership. This comes out of the Amador Business Council. And it's a partnership with the Amador Business Council. The Board of Supervisors is a member of that Economic Development Partnership now. They are asking for a considerable amount of money, and I think it's about $30,000 that they're asking for to contribute to Part 2 of this study that they're doing. They've looked at several things on the introduction, the phase 1 they reviewed. They did detailed analysis of the county's economic structure. They did construction of an input-output economic model called M-Plan, and then the completed model was then used to analyze hypothetical economic events. So that was phase 1. Phase 2.
So is this for the private sectors?
Right, private sector.
Businesses work in the private sector? Private
sector analysis, basically, of what we can do to make things better in our county economically. Try to get an environment that's better for business and try to entice other businesses to come in. I think they're looking at primarily down the road a couple things here. Of course, they're looking at employment income, revenues to business, local tax revenues. It's all about the economy, economic stability, economic multipliers and revenues. So it's going to be a very comprehensive analysis. Question for the Board of Supervisors is, do we want to contribute the $30,000 that's being asked for to go into part 2 of this study by Dr. Robert Fountain? So it's a lot of money. The board has already put in $10,000 for the phase 1.
So they come up with, is it specifically oriented, is that it? Because it winds up being specifically oriented to Amador County as opposed to other places that are similar that you can't just rely on, or the private sector look out for itself? Or?
Specifically for Amador County. And you're trying to look, as I said, about ways to entice businesses to come into the county. They'll look at all of those factors, and then there's a couple of areas they're going to key on in the end. Do we need a better transportation system? They'll look at, I think they're going to look at the winery industry and a couple of other areas that are the most promising for job creation. We all know without a good transportation system, we're kind of sunk from the start. So I think one of their goals is to look at, do we want to become a self-help county? By doing that, we would pass, or try to pass, a quarter, half-cent sales tax, however you want to structure it. So
to do what with that money?
The $30,000 would go to look at that, as well as a number of other things too. So,
all right.
A lot of items on the agenda tomorrow, so I'll keep going. But the Amador Arts Council is in to ask for a resolution, again, certifying them as the designated purveyor of local funding support from the California Arts Council. They are about the only group we have in the county that does things in support of the arts.
What does that mean? What are they going to do with the funding, Richard?
It means it gives them a step up as far as they are the ones that the Arts Council looks at if there's grants available. Okay. I know, like, they went in a partnership with ACRA this year on Arts Council received funding for arts. They discussed it. So this gives them better standing for being in line for grants? Is that what that does? Yes, it gives them gives them a step up when California Arts Council has grants out there. So that's the basic impetus here. Is they needed that designation, though, to be considered for those grants.
Okay, all right.
Or I wouldn't say to be considered. I would say to rise to the top in the pool of people applying for those grants.
Okay. Because you're giving them a backing in that way of saying, yes, these are people that we like to work with as well. Is that how they view that?
It's a recognition by our Board of Supervisors that, yes, we see that they're doing a good job. And, you know, it's nothing new. We did a resolution like this last couple of years, too. So every year we have to reaffirm our support for them.
Right, okay.
Next up, we'll have the PACE program, the Property Assessed Clean Energy. This is a program that is being supported around the state now. There's a couple of intricacies here. This is very complicated, this PACE program, but the basic thing that it does is a person agrees to have an additional tax on their property. So it makes them eligible for that tax, but that tax gets recorded as a lien against their property too. So up front they have to pay very little, but ongoing they'll have to pay the cost of that assessment on their property. And what it does is it allows them to get money to finance renewable energy generation, energy and water efficiency improvements, and electric vehicle charging infrastructure.
This might be this kind of things that I hear sometimes on the radio where they say, well, you can get this, and then they'll put it on your tax bill. Right. This happens in other counties, like that. And then it says, so you don't have to worry, it comes out of your taxes and that. Right. Okay, so the county's thinking about signing up to allow that to happen here?
If we do it. Okay. Because the other key is, Mike Ryan, I'm sure, will have something to say as the treasurer tax collector, because number 3 here is we need to review and adopt the resolution that authorizes execution of the agreement for collection of special taxes taxes and contractual assessments. So it means an added layer, another job that our tax
Right.
assessor has to do, and our probably other departments, our county auditor would probably be involved there, but primarily it's going to be the tax collector who's involved with that extra layer. The one asking for this, I know Supervisor Oneto put it on the agenda, but this is coming from RCRC with a new, or actually it's not new, it's a California Home Finance Authority, which is changing into the Golden State Finance Authority, all coming from RCRC, and they contract with Y-Green, which is energy spelled backwards, but that's the company's name, Y-Green. And that would be the company that is designated to serve as the program administrator for this California PACE financing program through RCRC's Golden State Finance Authority. Now, the complication comes in here is, and there's an article in our packet that was included, is the problem here is it is an accepted program in the state. It's accepted by the feds, but the problem is the federal loan agencies have a problem, and we can get to that.
We're going to go to a break and we'll come back with this because it does seem like there should be some, look into that a little bit more. Okay, stay with us right here on TSPN.